Well, I didn't think I'd be doing this again, but as it turns out, those start decks in Japan actually added some worthwhile cards. And with each passing day, the Pokemon Company is announcing more and more of these cards being added to Ascended Heroes, which is out on January 29th in Pokemon TCG Live. Since my previous video covered the other Megas like Frostlass and Dragonite, today it's all about those start deck cards. Then as per usual, in the weeks leading up to Ascended Heroes, I'll have in-depth previews of all the best decks once we know the set list. Unfortunately, if you were expecting those new Megas to completely dominate, I've got some bad news. It's been so cold lately that I've had to wear socks. But don't worry, they're see-through. Also, the Megas haven't done much. There's a few reasons for this. Firstly, the new cards are only available in start decks. Except those start decks have 742 total cards and the vast majority are reissues. So for competitive players, the value isn't there. Not only that, while they're extremely cheap at just $6 each, the deck you get is random. And there's 100 of them. So the odds of getting what you want are low, meaning singles are the only reliable way to get what you want. Secondly, rotation comes to Japan in less than a month. Spending money on new cards when they could be obsolete a few weeks from now is a terrible investment, especially if stores are selling those singles at inflated prices to capitalize on their hard-to-pull nature. But the biggest question mark right now is this unknown. Also, is Pokepad going to be in Ascended Heroes? There's a decent chance, and odds are it'll be officially announced the day after I post this video. Assuming it is, this will easily be the #1 most impactful card in the set and maybe in all of 2026. Play it, go get any non-rule box Pokemon from deck. I've talked about how strong Pokepad is numerous times, but it bear ticks repeating. This card is insane. It's single-footedly the reason why Pokétopic's best decks list has Dragapult EX and S tier far ahead of everybody else. It's just more consistency in a deck that doesn't really need it. Every winning list runs anywhere from 2 to 4 copies, because not only does it get a Dreepy or Badoo or Duskull from deck, but also a Munkidori or Dracloak or Dusclops or Dusknoir. Yeah, even though we live in a world with Psyduck, Pokepad is going to make decks running the Dusknoir line even better. But who cares about how old decks are improved? Out of all the new archetypes provided by the start decks, Mega Meganium has seen the most success. But as you'll learn throughout this video, the ZA Mega Starters haven't made much of a Giga impact. To quickly refresh you like a Vaporeon water gunning my moist feet on a hot day, Mega Meganium does 70 base damage plus 50 more for each grass energy attached to it. Have Baby Meganium in play, you're doing 370 damage with just 3 physical grass energy on the Mega, which is easily achievable thanks to Tealmask Ogerpon and Energy Switch or Ogerpon and Mega Venusaur. While I personally have to build a deck around this thing featuring at least 2 copies to appease my handsomely attractive YouTube viewers, winning lists in Japan never featured more than a single copy. It's weird to say, but these Megas are seeing the same level of play as Mega Mawile. As in, they're useful, but you treat them more like a side Torchic. This first list is about as straightforward as an Arrokuda. A 2/2/2 line of Mega Venusaur so you can move energy around to your actually good attackers, 3 Chikorita and 3 Bayleaf, plus 2 Baby Meganium and 1 Mega, along with 4 Ogerpon to delude yourself into thinking they'll help with card draw. Overall, the Mega Venusaur pairing has been the most popular and most successful. But remember, Japanese players don't have access to TCG Live, so they don't know the pain of Ogerponing 3 times, then Lilying for 8 and still whiffing a Chikorita. Otherwise, you can go with the tried and true Ogerpon Energy Switch combo, which looks a little something like this. There's definitely a bit of wackiness here, including Noctowl, so don't be afraid to cook the bird and remove all the excess. But for the coolest among us who enjoy going to Hooters, you might just have the most consistent Meganium Ogerpon deck ever created by someone else. Pokepad also makes another appearance here, proving just how versatile it's going to be. I mean, you no longer have to worry about jamming a Fan Rotom on your deck to find Noctowl anymore. Plus, Wellspring Mask Ogerpon with Sparkling Crystal means you can manually attach a single grass energy and torrential pump them thanks to Meganium. Because of things like Force of Vitality, Bug Catching Set, and that Baby Meganium, I always assumed Mega Meganium would be the best Mega Starter. And these early results prove how intelligent I am. Sticking with the starter EXs, we have the Mega that can deal 400 damage for 3 energy. Using Mortal Crunch, which would be a good name for a chocolate bar made of people, Mega Feraligatr does 200 base damage. But if they have even a single damage counter on them, that's up to 400. Once again though, putting just a single copy into the existing Feraligatr deck has proved to be the best choice for Japanese players. I know, it's disappointing. But like I predicted, you just take the existing Baby Feraligatr deck with Munkidori that was super popular for like a week earlier this year and add a Mega Feraligatr for big KOs. The strategy isn't too complicated, it's 3 complicated. What? The jokes can't all be good, I mean they're free, you should be happy with what you get. Anyway, step 1 is having Baby Feraligatr in play. Its Torrential Fart ability allows you to place 5 damage counters on the alligator, thus boosting the damage it deals by 120. While Giant Wave's good and all, it requires 2 water. No, you want to copy either Totodile's Corner Attack or Croconaut's Hit and Run attack thanks to Relicanth's ability. So now you've damage Feraligatr and it can deal 130 damage and prevent retreat, or 150 and switch into Mimikyu or Klefki. Before that though, heal Feraligatr with Monkey Dory, which in turn activates Mortal Crunch. Like I said, it's a bit complicated. From there, you put Mimikyu in the active if you want to be annoying. Otherwise, Klefki is great because it shuts off their Monkey Dory. Provided they don't have a Gust card, if Klefki's in the active, they can't Adrenabrain any damage to your side of the field. Do that for a few turns, power up the Magula Crispin and manual attachments, and take tougher KOs when necessary. It's a proven strategy that's honestly a bit boring and also hard to counter if done properly. Luckily, someone in Japan was cool enough to break the mold and focus on the Mega. It only placed in the top 16, but who cares about results? Well, winners. Only losers say winning doesn't matter. Regardless, it should work. While I personally think another Crispin is a good idea, or maybe even a counter gain over experience share, you have Badoo to get a cheeky early damage counter with the Monkey Dory and Baby Feraligatr combo always available to you. Though the more I look at it, the more I'm reminded how Mega Feraligatr could struggle. The only thing it does is 400 damage for 3 energy. A great number, but there's no versatility. You basically have to play Monkey Dory, otherwise they can potentially heal off any chip damage you try to send their way. And that means Darkness Energy plus Crispin, gumming up the list even further. I'm sure I'll cook something up for my more in-depth video starting in January, but don't be surprised if this fizzles out like my current marriage. Finally, the Hot Pig. There's no way to sugarcoat this like the bacon I cook every Sunday morning in the microwave for my kids because that's the only time I have them. In 10 days, Mega Emboar has 1 gym battle win. That's it. Oddly, instead of pairing Mega Emboar with Baby Emboar, which would make a lot of sense, the Japanese player went about as far off course as you can imagine. Oricorio EX works since it activates when you have a Mega in play, but they included Mega Camerupt plus Volcarona for maximum inconsistency. I'm also not sure why there's 2 Fire Breather and 2 Earthen Vessel in a deck with 8 energy, but let's just go with the flow like Yuma. My guess with the strategy is that you use Camerupt early to deal 240 damage for 1 energy thanks to Volcarona, praying to Arceus you didn't prize Oricorio. Then for higher HP dudes, Emboar comes in and swings for 320. But it kinda feels like you'd be better off just running my Camerupt Oricorio deck on its own, right? I mean, Emboar punches itself in the face for 60 when using Crimson Blast, bringing its HP lower than the Camel and potentially giving up free prizes. Ultimately, if Mega Emboar is going to see any play, I imagine Baby Emboar will be involved. 1 Oricorio EX is fine, but you'll have to utilize other attackers. And even then, the whole beating itself off might be too much for my thick hog to handle. When Mega Charizard YEX was first announced, its only use was more obvious than For the Winds toupee. You take a single copy, throw it into an existing Charizard deck, and call it a day. While it's impossible to know how much of a role the new Megazard played in each game, it was included in several winning lists over the past 10 days. Foregoing Megazard X entirely, this is what a typical Charizard EX deck with Mega Charizard Y looks like. There's a worryingly low amount of Charizard EX plus 2 Pidgeot, Chi-Yu, and a bunch of supporters to help keep PDC Jail from screwing you over early, but Tatsugiri will still fail to find any of them. There's been slight variations among the winners, like 2 Ignition and 1 Mist Energy and a Monkey Dory for Funky Dory, but everything else is relatively unchanged. Ignition Energy is a smart inclusion because Megazard Y requires you to discard 3 energy. You then deal 280 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon, be it their active or someone on the bench. Maximum Belt ups that to 330 if you target their active, meaning it's great early. And thanks to Ignition Energy, you can potentially do it on back-to-back turns with Pidgeot helping you find the special energy. Plus, when they KO your Mega, regular old EX Charizard is waiting to deal big damage. Though, because there's no Oricorio EX, you will have to be smart with your Infernal Rain attachments. As a quick reminder, this deck will have to rely solely on Oricorio when rotation hits at the end of March. Charizard EX will be gone, same with Pidgeot. While it could be tough for the Lizard come April, I'm sure the Pokemon Company will introduce something to keep it viable. Seeing the same level of success as Mega Emboar, as in it won a single minor gym battle, up next we have Larry's to Dunsparce EX. This one's really boring in its simplicity. While I'm concerned about the low level of Larry's Pokemon, Solrock helps deal with weak basics with the Dunsparce save for the bigger guys. The deck will rely heavily on Larry's Komala though, and only having 2 seems like a mistake. Komala Harris's ability allows you to accelerate any energy from hand to your active Larry's Pokemon. That's great because the Dunsparce flips a coin for each energy attached to it, dealing 80 damage for each heads. Accelerate to Ignition Energy, manually attach a fighting, and you can potentially deal 320 damage if you flip 4 out of 7 heads. There's even a power glass to keep loading up to Dunsparce, but the main issue holding this archetype back is the fact that you can't recycle ignition energy. If you fail to take KOs when you need them, you lose. So while it'll be fun to mess around with for an afternoon on stream, I'll probably end up ghosting Larry afterwards. Unless his Staraptor ends up being usable. Winner of just a single gym battle, this list once again has low counts of Larry's Pokemon. And while Staraptor seems like a perfect candidate for de-evolution, they went with Crisis Punch instead. Basically, you should treat this list as a first draft, not a winning list. There's far too many issues like having just one Brute Bonnet. Sure, if prizing didn't exist, it'd be great. But then we'd also live in a world where Vaporeon and Gardevoir are real and I wouldn't have to buy $600 love dolls to come close to the real thing. To be fair, I don't completely hate the idea. Staraptor does 160 damage if it's poison. Add a Binding Mochi, that's 200. And poison will help deal with things like Pheasantipity and Latias. But then you have Feather Strike for 3 energy, which does 150 to their active and 50 to someone on the bench. Pair it with de-evolution, you might be able to win a few games. Doesn't mean it's good, just maybe slightly playable if I'm bored in February and looking for something to whack off with. Unfortunately, for all of you who believed in Mega Audino, despite the fact that it's basically a 3-prize Turbo Energize, I couldn't find a single winning list with it included. Azumarill EX failed as well, same with both of Erica's potential decks. Like I said off the top, with Japanese rotation looming like a giantess's foot as she's about to crush you like in that recurring dream I keep having, players are likely hesitant to invest in cards that might suck. And some of those cards already suck. Regardless, once we know the full set list for Ascended Heroes, which should be in a couple of weeks, I'll provide decks and lists in my usual preview videos. Until then, give me your craziest ideas for these new cards so I can borrow them for my Twitch streams and pretend I made them myself.